Imagine waking up at sunrise and watching the sun set just 6 hours later. Night lasts another 6 hours, and then morning begins again. Earth now completes one full rotation in only 12 hours. But shorter days would be the least surprising change. A faster spinning Earth would affect our weight, oceans, weather, climate, and even the way our bodies experience time. There is one important condition. If Earth suddenly doubled its rotation speed, the atmosphere and oceans would not immediately match the faster ground beneath them. The result would be catastrophic winds, enormous waves, and widespread destruction. So instead, imagine Earth gradually sped up until everything adjusted to a stable 12-hour cycle. What would that world be like? The first obvious difference would be the sky. In many places, daytime would last roughly 6 hours, followed by about 6 hours of darkness. Seasons and location would still affect the exact timing, but sunrise and sunset would arrive twice as often. At the equator, the ground currently moves eastward at around 1,670 kilometers per hour because of Earth's rotation. On a 12-hour Earth, that speed would roughly double. You would not feel yourself racing through space because the atmosphere would rotate with the planet. But you might notice something else. You would weigh slightly less. Earth's rotation creates a small outward effect that works against gravity. This effect is strongest at the equator, and doubling Earth's rotation speed would make it 4 times stronger. But no, people would not start floating. The change would still be small. A person near the equator might weigh around 1% less than they do today. Near the poles, the difference would be almost non-existent. However, that stronger outward force would affect something much larger than people. It would reshape the planet. Earth is already slightly wider around the equator than it is from pole to pole. Faster rotation would increase that bulge. The solid ground would change very slowly, but the oceans could move much more easily. Water would be pulled toward equatorial regions, causing sea levels to rise in some places and fall in others. Many coastlines could gradually shift, leaving some cities flooded while exposing new land elsewhere. But the oceans would not be the only thing reorganized. The atmosphere would change too. Earth's rotation helps control the direction of winds, ocean currents, and storms through the Coriolis effect. On a faster spinning Earth, that effect would become stronger. This does not mean every hurricane would suddenly become twice as powerful. Storms also depend on temperature, moisture, and many other factors. Instead, global wind patterns would likely become more divided into narrow bands. Jet streams could shift, storm tracks could move, and rainfall patterns could change. Some regions that are wet today might become dry. Other areas could experience more frequent storms. Now comes a less obvious question. Would shorter days make Earth hotter or colder? The planet would still receive roughly the same amount of solar energy over a full year. But each location would have less time to heat during daylight and less time to cool at night. That could reduce the difference between daytime and nighttime temperatures. Deserts might not become quite as hot during the day because the sun would set sooner, but they would also have less time to cool before sunrise returned. The largest climate changes would probably come from altered winds, clouds, and ocean currents, not simply from the shorter day itself. And then there's life. Human bodies use an internal clock that is naturally close to a 24-hour cycle. A 12-hour pattern of light and darkness would not match it very well. People probably would not sleep every 6 hours. Instead, society might continue using something similar to a 24-hour schedule, treating 2 complete rotations of Earth as one human day. That would make everyday language rather confusing. See you tomorrow might mean after 2 sunrises. Plants and animals would also struggle at first. Many species use daylight to control sleeping, feeding, migration, and reproduction. Some could adapt over generations while others might not. Still, life would probably survive. Earth rotated faster in its distant past, and its days have gradually become longer over billions of years. A 112-hour Earth would therefore not be impossible. But it would feel like a completely different world. You would weigh slightly less near the equator. Oceans would shift toward the middle of the planet. Weather systems would follow new paths. Coastlines would change, and our internal clocks would no longer match the sky. But the strangest change would simply be the rhythm. You could watch the sun rise, cross the entire sky, and set, all within 6 hours. Then, 6 hours later, it would begin again. The planet would feel as if it were constantly rushing into tomorrow.